have is called a long idea I had. You don't have to do this, man. It gets better. Does it, man? Does it? The country's focus on sports is an early system of training and indoctrination into a world of violence. They take young men and women and teach them to see competition and athletic exertion above anything else. Then only the smallest of percentages are skilled and willing enough to push to the most elite levels of athletics. Everyone else is left with the muscles that seek an athletic outlet, competitive spirits that call for the competition, and a desire to find like-minded individuals to test their mettle against other different yet altogether similar individuals. What do we expect? We tell ourselves that it is to learn the values of hard work and form lasting friendships. But any position you put a child in that caused them to work with a group of peers towards a specified goal could do the same. Why then is sports the go-to system of raising and leading our youth into their life? Then comes the day they reach the peak of their abilities in the given sport. Sure, they could train, they could devote themselves to becoming one of the elite professionals of a given activity, but there are only so many positions to play. So now let's say we have a young man graduating from high school. He played football at a rural high school. He was good, but not so good that anyone other than his little community cares. He's smart enough, but for 4 years the tune that has been played in the background told him he just needs to get better. You need to get stronger. People love you for this. You show up on Friday, and your dad, all the dads, cheer for you. You and the other boys, you feel the pride of the community putting their faith in you. Then comes the day the last game is played. Win or lose, you step out of the locker room onto the field with the waiting friends, family, and maybe even a fan. An 8th grader who thinks you're the coolest guy in the entire school. Maybe you are. But soon you realize you played the last game that you'll ever play, that you will ever have a ref that was paid to be there. Sure, he was just a single 30-something guy from around the area who played a little college football and bought a shirt and rule book. But he was the one that gave the game you played legitimacy. Without him, you're just a bunch of guys who got together to play a little game of backyard football. Then you realize it's probably the last time you played in front of fans that aren't your girlfriend or your wife holding your kids, playing up her excitement of seeing you and a bunch of other guys that went as far as you did, running a little slower than you used to, throwing themselves half-hearted into a tackle because everybody is already going to be sore tomorrow and you don't want to be the guy that is taking it too seriously. So you're standing there on the field contemplating the things that will only come into focus down the road on another day in another place when by all rights you are a different person and you begin to think, what now? There on that field, most boys don't realize that they've taken a moment of pause on a well-trod path and are within the distance you can see a trident in the road. If you're smart like I was kind of smart, or like I was kind of, they say college. If you got a girl pregnant, got into some trouble with the law, or just sort of dumb, let's say get a job. Now let's say you start down the former path and realize it's pretty slow going. You're smart, but you never really had to try before. After a few years of passing classes in name only, you start to see the crossroads come up again. This time you tell yourself, I'm going to try the other path for a little bit, see where that takes me. You start down the path of the brave, the desperate, and the dumb, and quickly say to yourself, what can I do that another person will pay me for? Now back at that first crossroads, the people with family connections, the parents own a business, run a farm, that sort of thing. Some of them split off there. They say, I'm happy doing what my family has been doing, or my family really needs my help to keep this thing afloat. Then there are people who are desperate or just kind of dumb. Desperate or desperate, but the dumb may not be dumb. Maybe they've just spent their whole lives being told they are, just like you spent your whole life being told that you're kind of smart. Maybe they were really good at something, but they were never told there's a way that they can make a living off of it. Or at the very least supplement their income and open the doors to other ventures. These desperate and or dumb people, they take the jobs that take little to no education in order to be considered for. Walmart cashier or McDonald's cook are the classic examples. So you're not one of those guys, you were kind of smart. and given encouragement throughout your life, but you never learned to try at something. So you're on the path that leads through college, but now you're stuck in a rut, and not trying, in the rut of not trying, that you coasted through, or along through your life up to this point. Now, however, you realize this isn't going to work anymore. You've got to change your path. You can either try harder in college, or give one of the jobs that doesn't take much education a shot. Say the few years that you've done in college have left you a little anxious, nervous, panicked to continue the college path, for fear that maybe you were never really that smart to begin with. And if you put your full effort and still fail, you're only confirming that fear. You start to lean towards getting a job. So way back when you were a decent athlete, coming up on the trident you thought was a fork, you are sort of smart. So you'd like to come back to the smart guy road eventually, get off the path of the desperate and dumb. So you look around, where can an athletic guy find a job that pays decent, has benefits that seemingly put him in a better position later in life, is respectable to the people who has to tell what he does, and to top it all off, has specific programs to continue your education if you haven't put it together already, it's the military. Now quickly, let's go back to the original crossroads. Turns out there was a third path, or I guess like an offshoot of the other two. Just like the farm boy working on the farm, so many families treat the military like their own little mom and pop store, like they're passing it down the line, and it's just been an expectation from the start that they would join. So back to the guy standing at his second set of crossroads. He says, I remember being in pretty good shape, and though I've been desperately seeking out teams and frats and clubs since before I was in grade school, I never really felt like I was part of a group. Maybe military will be the place for me. So you go into the recruitment office, and the man behind the desk is nice, but in a forceful way. The way that says, you came to me, so I know I can play hardball a little more than whenever I show up at a high school and hand out pencils and give talks about your options after graduation. After the initial papers are signed, you have to go get checked out. They want to make sure that you can do the job. That was one thing I noticed about basic training. The only wheelchair ramp I saw the whole time was on the day of graduation ceremony. I understood, obviously, we were all physically healthy and required the ability to not only walk, but run and climb and crawl and jump and push and pull and sleep with noise happening and stay awake whenever we only wanted to sleep more, and eat the food they gave us even though all we wanted to do was sleep more, and march even though every time that we stopped we fought the sticky blinks of desperate sleep. You had to be healthy, but a particular type of healthy. This is not a resort with health options. This was a test and training that you could make do with little, while being thankful for what you got and understand that you were getting the cushiest treatment anyone had ever got in your position. We shivered on thawing ground, in equipment a third of our weight, hearing about the men that came before us standing exhausted in trenches, dying of combinations of wounds, fatigue, starvation, and infection. While never seeing an enemy for months at a time, just because soldiers need to be there just in case. So like I was saying before, they have to check you out to make sure that you're healthy enough to do the job. Make sure you're not hiding any injuries so that you can get into training and say that your impediment was caused by the activities, and have the government pay for your medical. Honestly, I pity those people. It's a solid plan overall. The injured soldiers are the military's last concern. In every stage of training, I saw a handful of people around my age daily marched out to stand and be counted before they were let out to sweep, take papers to people. They were there before I got there, and after months of training, some of them were supposed to be about to leave a week or two after I graduated. The people in this crowd that had medical issues that could be treated were in many cases just hanging out in limbo, waiting to be well enough to go back to training and hoping that they could start where they left off and not have to do the whole thing over again. So here we are, sitting in a room that you share 59 other men ranging from 4 years younger to a decade older. Backgrounds are discovered and forgotten semi-weekly. Arguments about race, or arguments not about race, but about it, flare up and simmer. People waste the short hours of sleep they have joking with the others, writing home, arguing about something inconsequential with varying degrees of seriousness. You would do it too, because sometimes it's worth being tired the next day to hear everyone's most embarrassing sex story. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I guess the country seems to raise guys to be soldiers one way or another. Whatever, I'm going to bed.